Hello everyone, welcome to Katharine's Creatures. This is episode 59, I think, if I'm correct. And this is a series that we gotta talk about various mythological beings, and the like pulled from lore worldwide. And I always like to preface by saying that I am not a linguist, so if I mispronounce anything, I apologize in advance. I try my best, but I know I can make errors along the way. So with that said, let's jump right into it. This week, I wanted to talk about the Goblin. And I want everybody to pause who's listening to this and close your eyes if you feel like it, but consider what you think a goblin's supposed to be. Because the interesting thing is they have such great variability that one person's perception of what a goblin is may differ from someone else, and they both could be right. So are your goblins these smaller, fey-like creatures, or are they the larger, maybe more volatile beings that you've seen on movies like Lord of the Rings? Or Tolkien-esque ones, I should say. The Hobbit, let's go back to that. But what are your perceptions of a goblin? So think of that and consider that as we kind of chit-chat today. But multiple countries in Europe refer to some sort of creature as goblin. And they can vary between they vary a lot. More often than not, they're on the smaller side. They usually are grotesque in form in some way, though they can be very monstrous and volatile as well. In the Middle Ages, it was kind of when the concept of the goblin started spreading throughout Europe. And again, each country, each region has conflicting abilities, temperaments, and appearances. So again, going back to the whole two people could, perceive what a goblin is and both be correct, even though their looks or their descriptions are very different. They ranged from, I wouldn't say malevolent feeling spirits, but again, one of those mischievous household entities or spirits that might be more akin to certain type of fae-like creatures, but again, could be malicious, bestial in nature creatures that thieve and wish ill on people and their culture, or our culture. Abilities, and again, they range wildly. So it's hard to pin down what a goblin is. A lot of times they're referred to having some kind of shape-shifting ability. But yeah, they vary, so they could be very demonic in nature. Other times, fairy-like. So huge differences. And because of that, there's a wide-ranging group of other entities that have been associated with goblins that are all across the board. For instance, and some of these I've actually referred to in my little prior chats, but the brownie, the dwarf, gnomes, imps, kobolds, leprechauns. There's one called, I think I pronounced it duende, but, and again, ranging from a whole variety of backgrounds and mythos, but the goblins are kin to some of them in many ways. They do share similarities or overlapping interests. Fae, like I said, the Ifrit, I used in one of mine, as well, have sometimes been associated with being goblin-like or have sharing similarities. The word goblin was originally based off a French word, spelled a little different. I'll try to post that in the below information, but goblin would be the pronunciation, I guess, on that one as well. And it kind of rose around the 14th century, but it's interesting because though the name may be or originate in France, the countries that most utilize the concept of goblins in their own ways would be the English, Scottish, and Irish peoples and countries. And so you hear a lot of references to goblins in folklore, in fairy tales, and even more modern fantasy, but it kind of all stems from that area of Europe. There are, I guess you could categorize a couple different subcategories of goblin, understanding that it all just depends on what your perception of a goblin is. Some of these creatures are the red cap, oh my goodness, let me see. Redcap, and I know Hobgoblin are two of them. There are a few others, but I'm not going to try to pronounce them, but go check it out. Google Goblin and see what comes up. See what modern artists depict them as. See the variety of what people perceive them to be. I use goblins in one of my book series, but mine were heavily influenced by the Tolkien-esque idea of them versus something that may be a little more the household spirit, brownie side of things, which we've talked about prior. But yeah, so check it out. Google, try to perceive. That's why I wanted to ask in the beginning what you thought the goblin was beforehand, because they range so widely. There's not really a good description that covers the gamut. With that said, let me know what you think or how you perceive goblins to be, because again, my perception of them stems from one way, but other people may be very different, and I'm always curious. Anywho, if you have any questions about this or anything else, post them in the comments below, or reach out to me on social media. And until next time, Skull.